Hey everyone, and welcome to an all new episode of Wicked Unscripted, where we have unscripted conversations about some of the most popular reality shows on television. My name is Abigail Adams. I'm your host for this podcast. Joining me today, per usual, is the lovely Sarah Talks. And we're back to talk about the season 2 finale of The Traitors and the reunion, which I have thoughts on. We will get
So
to
many
that.
thoughts. I have
Ooh,
so many
it
thoughts on
just went off.
on all of it together, but and I know I'm biased because we do what we do. I just wish they would have given us the finale because we just found out last week we're getting finale and reunion the same night. I wish they would have spaced these out like originally thought, that it was supposed to be finale tonight, reunion this next week. I would have appreciated that more from a coverage standpoint, but two, I feel like the finale was so long. By the time, I know me personally, by the end of the reading, I was like, I'm ready to go bed. Like,
Yeah, I mean, also, I was gonna save a lot, and I will save a lot of this for later, but, like, I just wasn't entirely impressed with the reunion, so, like, it was hard for me to even finish at
yeah.
times. Just felt like, it wasn't even just like, obviously, you rehash stuff at the reunion because that's the point, but it just felt like only the rehash and then really no additional stuff. It just felt kind of like a recap episode almost.
I do have some housekeeping.
Yeah.
There was a comment in our from our last episode that where I referred to MJ as, was it MJ or Sandra? MJ or I think it was Sandra. Yes, it was Sandra, where she was coming across inauthentic. And I want to be very clear and clarify that comment. Apparently you read me for filth afterward, but I was like, I did not see that conversation that way. I was saying that in her delivery at the round table, if you do not know Sandra, if you've never played with her, if you, like the rest of these people, are strangers, the way her delivery comes across is not like she lacked like a passion, and sometimes came across inauthentic, meaning where you really didn't know where her head was at. Where I get that she is Sandra, this is what she does, this is her how she, and whatever, and she just stays quiet until she's ready to start. I get that. But when you're playing with other players, my point I was trying to make is that's the way she comes across, which is why I think that she never really got any traction, and she came across as a follower in this game. And
I
that
don't know
could
what the
have
word.
hurt her here in the end when she's trying to get people to actually listen to her.
Yeah, I'm not sure if inauthentic is the best word, but I understood where you were coming from
Yeah.
with that.
Just to be
Um,
very clear.
I think they got hung up on the word and less what you were saying around it, and it was like because that it's. I thought it was very obvious what you were
Yeah.
saying.
It's a perception thing. And me being someone who isn't as familiar with, I am more familiar with Sandra's gameplay than most of the people at that round table. But as someone who's less familiar with it, as say like you, a survivor expert, I was making that point from that viewpoint. Those people who know her, yeah, but you have the advantage of knowing her and have seen her play.
Correct.
So when I'm giving a perspective on perception, that is all I was getting at, is that if she seemed like a follower this whole time, when her voice needs to be heard, that's where it could bite her in the ass, because she just kind of seems like she's, hemming and hawing on both sides and not
Yeah,
really authentically loyal to any particular person.
I think that's what I think was the
Yeah.
crux of everything. And I
Just a
think
housekeeping item.
I think it's important to make sure that we're always clear because sometimes, like, we will say things and, like, I know I go back, I listen to the episode, and I'm like, I hope nobody realized I used the completely wrong word there. That word was not the word I was looking for. I pray people don't think I am dumb because I knew that was not the word I was looking
Yeah.
for, and it's just like it's not always going to be perfect, and we're running a low budget podcast here,
Yeah.
folks.
A no budget podcast at that.
No budget. Literally. But yes, I do think that was, I thought that was an important conversation, especially leading into
Yeah.
this episode, because I do think that Sandra, part of what I think may have worked against Sandra is being with a bunch of people that didn't know how to participate in a reality, or let me rephrase that, had never participated in a reality competition show before, so this was all new to them. It's not that they didn't know how to do it, they figured it out, but, like, um, I think that for somebody who doesn't know how this can work, also just having no idea who she is, like, I that's why I do see and understand your perspective with that, because it's very, I think, valid to see stuff like that. I mean, like, literally, Kevin walked in and didn't know who anybody was. Literally
Mhm.
didn't know who Johnny Bananas was, and, like, and the what was the line that Janelle had? It was like, "Johnny Bananas from the challenge." He's like, "He won a challenge?" And she goes, "No,
Yeah.
the challenge."
The
Whole
challenge.
time, several times. And he was just like, "Oh." So, I just think it's important to also put that part of the perspective in there, because that's part of part of how this goes. So, before we get to the Sandra stuff, because that's gonna be a big part of the conversation today, let's talk about the murder that Kate had to do on her own, her one and only solo murder. She was not happy that Phaedra left her to clean up her mess. She made that clear to Alan. Um and, at first I was, like, a little stunned that Sheree was the person that she ultimately selected, but, like, we did get inklings from Sheree at the end of the last episode that she had figured out that Kate was a traitor. And as she's reading the banishment note, she was confident that that is who the traitor was. And
Yeah.
remember, unlike other series, whether it's UK, Australia, I know Canada's done it, um they don't reveal the traitors to them afterwards. Like, they aren't gonna find out until they're watching the show with us. So, I mean, like, unless they banish them, and that's the way that works. Um, so it was just really fascinating to be able to see how that kind of played out, and how, like, Sheree was playing so blind to that point and still nailed Kate so perfectly at the end. We hadn't
Yeah.
seen a lot from her.
So here's the thing. Um, I mean, we paused the episode to discuss this, but at this point, this was the point in the episode where it dawned on me there was not a single path for Kate to win
Yep.
by having to go through with a murder in the night before the last round table. This had not occurred to me before because last season we had two traitors. Technically, in the rules, um, that yes, this murder would happen, and then you have a banishment, and then you have a fire ceremony, right? But that fire ceremony can go until you are satisfied where all the traitors, or there's only two people left. Okay. Now, because of the recruitments, things like that, if Alan had come up and said, because there's only one traitor left, Kate can choose to either recruit or murder again one more time. If she would have been able to recruit and then like same thing that she did, like go up to the turret, have a murder if you feel like it or whatever. Or they could even say you can either recruit or murder. You're down to the finale. Unless that was the case, there is no winning path for her here because having another murder the next morning at breakfast, you are guaranteed there is definitely a traitor left. There's no element of did we get them all? So when you have the banishment, either you get the traitor at banishment or you can dwindle it down at the fire pit. Now, the suspense with last season came when we had two traitors left. So once Ari was name was out of the ring, then they're like, cool, we're it, not knowing that Suri was still in the group. At this point, if everybody you're banishing is a faithful, you know you got a traitor left. There was no path for Kate to win this. So I think that that's something we need to think about, like moving forward, and the production team needs to think about. I do think that if she would have been able to recruit and go into banishment and fire pit with two traitors in there, then she could have thrown the suspicion off of her.
But I don't I'm gonna that's my only issue with that is, like, I think the selection personally should be between she should get the selection to murder or not. I don't think anybody should be
That's what I'm
getting
saying.
recruited
I'm
as, like
sorry. That's what I
no, but
originally
you're
said.
saying or recruit a traitor, and I'm saying I don't think a traitor should be recruited that night. I think it's
Mm.
way too late in the game to recruit. I don't think it's
You
fair
still
to
have a banishment and fire
but it's
pit.
only a single day, and they haven't had any chance to get the lay of the land as a traitor. I just don't think it's fair to make somebody do that on the last day, and then, like, that person be like, "See, psych, they're the traitor the whole time," and, like, they have no like, it just doesn't it wouldn't make sense to me
I get
to
it. And
put
my
people in it.
gut reaction was there shouldn't have been a murder the night before.
I think they
And
should give her or the traitor the option. Therefore, if the traitor's like power hungry and is like, "Oh, I really want to get this person because they're on
yeah,
to me," and then they make it known that there's a traitor left, that's on them. But
yeah.
like if they are like smart enough and they're like, "Oof, I think I can make this play out more in my favor if I do it in the way where I get somebody banished." The only problem is I think they like to have 4 people at the final fire pit, so I think that's kind of where this plays in, but I don't
Someone
know.
in my comments during the live too also suggested that if you were strategic enough that you could, if you were forced to do a murder that last night, you could murder the person with the shield. And if you murdered the person with the shield, no, there wouldn't be a murder. I could see that as if the person with the shield though is revealed to them that they get a murder letter and they're like, "Oh, you got the shield though, so you're good." They could still come down to breakfast and
Yeah,
say
they
there was an
can,
attempted murder on me.
because
But
that's
two,
exactly what Bergie did.
yeah, or would it throw suspicion on that person who had the shield?
I don't think so, because I think if everybody knew that they had the shield, and then they were like, "Hi, I'm here because I have the shield,"
Yeah.
like, it just I don't
I feel
think
like it just needs a little bit more thought because it kind of made from Sheree's murder on, while I didn't know how things were going to play out because they definitely played out in a very interesting way, I I knew for sure the faithful were going to win.
Yeah. Well, either way, it wasn't even just like Kate, whether or not Kate banished anybody, she didn't have the numbers, period,
Yeah.
to win the game. They just weren't there. But like kudos to her for like stirring up some crazy chaos involving Sandra. Um, do we before we get to that, do we even want to talk about the challenge? The
No.
mission was so pointless. If they want to
It got
do
really boring here in this last like half of the game.
like, if they really want to make the challenges worthwhile, they really need to add an element of traitors betraying people or some sort of incentive besides just a shield. Because also in this episode, there was none. It was just like, can you get more money? And when you're not actually timing a challenge, it's not fucking fun. It's not. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be that way. I should be it's just it's not. We could tell that was very much like or maybe it's not, and maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but it just did not seem like that last part only took 10 minutes. Just didn't feel like it. But again, maybe I'm wrong. Um yeah. So let's talk so after the episode after the challenge were on the car ride back, and this is when Kate started kind of like planting the seeds. Um so it took me like I it's such a good plan because, like, for someone like myself that needs to sit here and be like, 1, 2, 3, it, like, got me thinking a lot. Like, it was a really, like, brilliant plan. So got in the car and Kate told CT that Sandra was planning to vote him out. And then when CT went and told Sandra this, and Sandra's like, Kate, what's going on? And he's like, no, actually, CT's gonna be the one that's voting you out. And Sandra's like, oh, okay, so then let's go after him. And then Kate goes and tells this to CT, and then it blows up in her face at the round table. But I still think it was great because it sowed enough doubt in Sandra's game, and that was enough to get Kate to the fire of truth, in my opinion. So it was sad to see Sandra go out this way because she had played a really, really strong game up until that point. I just had a feeling that suspicion was going to end up falling on her for the exact reasons that it did. I think we talked about I think at one point both of us called it at different times in previous episodes. So like it's sad to see her go out this way, but she didn't necessarily have the best path to win herself either. I think she
That's true.
realized down the line that she could have been in the same position as MJ.
I mean, yeah, I was gonna say that now that we know how like everything played out, I don't see it playing out any differently.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the only difference is that there might have been more fireworks had Sandra picked up on what was going down and she was at the Fire of Truth and could have had that place to argue because they did get a chance to plead their cases. So could have been
I
more
don't think
fiery. Still don't know if it would have changed anything
I
though.
don't think it would have changed anything.
Try to give the benefit of the doubt, damn it.
Yeah.
Now you're right. Yeah, one of there were a lot of jaw-dropping moments for me in this episode. I don't know about you. There were a bunch that literally like made me like grip my chair and be like, "Holy shit!" One of them was when CT looked Sandra dead in the eyes and was like, I think you're a traitor." And then we just got like the crazy head turn from Trishelle. She was stunned, as was I. And you could see it coming from the editing, but it was just after all season of of trusting her, I thought he had thrown his game away at that point. Straight up. I was like, you just ruined yourself.
I yeah.
Well, because he lost, and that's why. Well, because I was like, now Trishelle's gonna want to vote for you at the fire pit, which she did. Because like it was like she
I
lost
didn't
faith
see
in
it.
him at the
Well,
last
yeah, she
minute.
did, but I at that in that moment, I thought they were gonna just have a Trishelle CT hash out. I didn't think what was at the I didn't think it was gonna happen at the fire pit the way it did.
Right.
I thought it would have been before that, but in the moment, I thought she's gonna be upset, but she's gonna let him know as soon as they walk out of that room. So it didn't like, you know, I didn't think she was gonna take it the way she did. I thought she was gonna be upset, but I didn't think she was gonna take it as like traitor behavior.
I mean, I understood why because they came in with such distrust. And then everything she was saying, like I knew she was gonna go back to that the Ring of Fire ceremony. Knew that was gonna come back. But I think as CT explained, he was like, but like I did everything I could to show you afterward that when I made a mistake when it came to our trust, I came here to show you that I could trust. And I think that's what she just was. What happened to CT happened to her. She got baited in very quickly into somebody's game of being, because that was also Kate's goal, was to get CT painted as a traitor. So she almost succeeded a second time. Almost. She
I think I really
kind of did, but
struggle with Trishelle because on one hand, I
yeah.
know she's right and I know she's on the money, but I've struggled with her throughout this season and
Mm,
especially in this episode because CT was forthcoming with her about
mhm.
his doubts about Kate, his doubts about it. And she just when someone doesn't agree with her, she refuses even with her most trusted ally in the game. CT was her ride or die, her number one, right?
Yep.
Even with him, she absolutely refuses to hear anyone else's logic or thought process. So he did tell her before the roundtable, he did not blindside her with this vote because he told her how he felt. He told her he had his doubts. He told her what he thought was suspicious. She just refuses to hear it. So I feel like a lot of times when she feels like she's been betrayed or blindsided or didn't see something coming or on the outs, it's her own fault because she
Yeah.
absolutely refuses to hear things she doesn't want to hear.
Well, yeah, yeah. And from what I can tell, I have not watched a lot of the challenge in the past, but from the clips and the analysis I have seen, it doesn't necessarily seem entirely out of her character to have done this. So it seems very much like if you were a fan, you saw this coming from a mile away where they're like,
Yeah.
here we go. You know, I was actually ultimately surprised that they ended up on the same page. Like when they got into the deadlock after Kate got banished.
Mm-hmm.
I think hopefully I mentioned this before, but I just want to say Kate was so graceful when she walked out. It was
Yes.
so pleasant. I literally
Very not Kate.
I loved it. It made me so happy, and it like for the moment where it was like, yes, a traitor, and then it's like, ooh, it's coming next. Then I got like the flood of happiness because she walked off with a legitimate. It didn't feel like a snarky smile. It felt like very much like it was like, good luck, I love you guys, and I was like, oh,
I think this
that.
is an area where we're going to disagree because I love Kate snark. I love Kate sass. And I feel like the second she became a traitor, I was so excited for her just to be this cutthroat, ruthless bitch of Kate that I love so much, that I loved from season 1. And it just was and then her exit from the show was very not Kate. And while it was graceful and mature and blah, blah, that's not what I would have watched her for. That's not what I find her entertaining for. So all in all, when people talked about the finale was good. It wasn't season 1 good though. And
Oh yeah, I mean, I'd say they're on
there's a
par.
debate on it. Me
Personally,
personally, I can't top season 1 finale. There was intrigue, there was drama, there was oh my gosh, there was gas. The only way for this, because I knew Kate wasn't going to win, I knew we weren't getting a traitor win at this point. The only way I was going to get any kind of like oomph out of the show that what I love about it would be a little Kate drama. And
yeah.
the fact that she went out so gracefully, kudos to her. But it was not what I would say was entertaining.
Oh, well, let me revise because as you mentioned that, I want to revise my statement slightly because I still stand by it, but only in to make sure I'm clarifying. I
Mhm.
still stand by it in whole, but there's a but. um, so her exit is by that I want to be so clear that it is as soon as she finished saying the words, I'm a traitor. After that, when it was the smile, good luck, guys, and that part, that's what I liked. What I actually and I think this might be what you're saying. I could not stand that she just rolled over and died essentially at this fire pit. Like
Yes.
she told Alan when she's going like at that little interview, she's like, I am going to claw my way to the top out there. I am going to cause some drama. She literally didn't cause any drama.
None.
She threw
But
the
see,
damn
that's the
green
thing
thing
too.
to end
Like,
the
yeah,
day.
there's that. But I mean, if you're not going to do all that at the fire pit, at least give it to me on the stairs after you
Yes.
get banished. Throw throw a fuck you, throw a finger up
Yeah.
in the air. I don't care. Just give me something that's Kate. The reason they
Something.
brought you back to the show was
Anything.
because you were utter fucking chaos. And she was. She absolutely was until the day she
So
was
fun.
recruited.
So fun. I think they should have had her as a traitor from the get. I think I said that last week. I just think that would have been more fun.
I'm starting to question that as well, because if she was a traitor from the get-go, she wouldn't have. I don't know, maybe she was uncomfortable doing the lying part of it all and having, you know, to be not because she I feel like if she would just have been given, let me rephrase. If I feel like if she would have known or thought you can play a traitor as yourself, just don't tell people you're a traitor. But I feel like she went into playing it as a traitor as I'm treading on thin ice and I have to be very careful with what I say, which took away the parts of her that we find so entertaining. And
You
I
know,
feel like she
yeah.
probably would have played the same had she been a traitor from the beginning, because I think in her head, the anxiety of playing the traitor game is what made her personality go away.
I agree. And I think I wa- I wonder if part of it is like looking at it as faithful as being you are a natural you versus traitor where you have to act and like as
Yes.
much as it's not that she doesn't like to put on a show, but sometimes acting isn't because she does. I don't think she likes to act. I think she
Well,
literally just
also
likes
being a
to be
faithful, you have the
herself.
confidence of you know you're a faithful. You can live in that castle with a confident air about you where you can talk shit about traitors. You can, run your mouth about catching traitors, but as a traitor, you forget that you need to still do those things. It's just, I don't think that she was able to juggle both sides of that coin.
Yeah. It's like thinking it's like I hope people who go on this show in the future think about the fact that you can be a nuanced player in this game just as much as you can be a nuanced person in real life. You can be a nuanced faithful just as much as you can be a nuanced traitor. And that's kind of the thing. So,
Suri was so good at this game because
yeah.
she played the way I've been telling people to play for 2 seasons, and that is you are a faithful until you're in the turret. That's the only place that you play as a traitor. When you're not in the turret, you play as a faithful, and that's what Suri did. That is what Phaedra was doing up until, she got put in the hot seat. But you're outside of the turret, you're talking, you're trying to figure out who it is. You are hunting traitors. And that's what you should be doing. You should be playing as you're a faithful, make yourself forget you're a traitor until you're not. And if you do those things, then there's never going to be anything that anybody can suspect you of.
Right. I absolutely agree. I know we touched upon a lot of the second banishment already, but like, oh my god, of the round table, there's 3 banishments technically, but talking the last banishment of them all. I mean, MJ's face was my face, like.
I mean, this kind of ties into the reunion too, but
We
they
can
talked about it at the
meld it in.
reunion, but there is an issue with Bravo reality stars, non-gamers going on this show with gamers. The same type of issue, just not a monetary issue, with reality stars playing against non-reality stars. These gamers, Big Brother, Challenge, Survivor, they don't take this shit personally. It is a game.
For the most
You
part.
can cut your best friend to win a game. That is why Trishelle knew she could write CT's name at the end, because she thought she was winning a game, that she wasn't playing best friends. And they have that understanding. I feel like this was a lot more gut wrenching for MJ because she didn't see it that way. This was not that to her. This
Mhm.
was us all playing like the lottery together and go pulling in our tickets. Like,
Yeah, like, think about it like the first time you ever watched a reality show ever in your life. Doesn't matter how old you are. You could have been 6, you could have been 20, does not matter. Just remember the first time that you realized someone could do a blindside and you watched it happen and, like, your jaw hit the floor because it's like whether you were happy or not, it's your brain takes time to comprehend these things. She had been blindsided in plenty of ways in the house, which is why I think at this point I was a little frustrated. I'm like, how could you not see it? But I'd still get it because it's like it's still not her realm. Like, I
yeah,
gotta give her props for being the person that was like, there's a traitor left. How she was the person who pegged the fact that there had to be one,
yeah,
because of the faithful
the
being
murder.
banished after a murder, after the final banishment, rather, murder, banishment, Jesus Christ, all the too many words. um, but so I do, but I still ultimately I see it from both sides. I understand why MJ is upset, and I think she has a right to be upset. I think John put it
I
really,
think she
really
had a right to
well.
be upset in the moment, but to
Yeah.
still to this day be upset,
Yes.
like,
John put it really well where he said, is she okay? Like, is it right to feel upset? Yes, but should she be aggrieved? Mm, that one's up for debate. I personally side with no. um, like, she went out. I was
she has the right to feel
stunned.
however she feels. Don't get
But
me
she
wrong.
blocked them on Instagram. I was like,
Everybody has
oh,
the right to their own feelings, and
of
I'm not here to
course.
tell anybody how they should feel about anything. I'm
No,
saying
no.
that this is an issue when you have non-gamers competing with gamers. And if everyone doesn't go into this game with the understanding of
We're
these
slitting
are the
throats.
rules, here are the loopholes, this is how you can maximize your win, this is how you can win the most money,
Yeah,
like,
absolutely. And, like, honestly, I've been screaming this from the mountaintops all season. First of all, don't know why people let Trishelle get this far. Should have never happened. She was on the Traitors' radar for weeks. She had no shield for weeks. And Phaedra at the reunion, she was like, well, yeah, well, she told me that she really wanted this, so I didn't want to do it. It's like, but you weren't the only traitor most of the time. You could have just played it off on someone else. That's the whole point. So I just felt like that was a little bit of a cop out when she was like, well, I just didn't want to do it.
Well,
I feel
she's
like
not
there
at
must
the
have been
reunion. That
more.
comment too kind of irked me the wrong way because it just confirmed what we've been frustrated with the whole season, with the traitors taking their turns
I
instead of
know.
making collective group decisions.
Well, and then
I'm like,
also,
yeah, she's like, oh, that wasn't me. That wasn't me. Well,
right.
you're a traitor too. Like this whole passing the baton they did all season, I ultimately think is one of their biggest downfalls.
Yeah, 100. I think it's the downfall of every single traitor.
Yeah.
Because I think that was really the strength of the group last year, was it being a group decision. And, Cirie actually just fading into the back until she needed to kind of vocalize, but she didn't. And what she's always done masterfully on any show is making her decision feel like a group decision.
Group decision,
So
yeah.
that's really a big part of, if a traitor wants to be really successful, they need to make the other traitors feel like they're making decisions with them, when in reality the decisions they're making are for their best interest. Like, because that was the thing, like, and also to the point where you were just talking about, like, we don't, like, with Bravo people, they don't want to hurt people's feelings, blah 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 blah, like that's how I felt like came into the relationship with Phaedra and Trishelle. If Phaedra was, I totally believe Phaedra's being truthful. I just wonder if there's more underneath what she's saying, where she was like, oh, well, Trishelle said she wants to win a game. It felt very like paraphrased. And I just wonder what more was in that conversation. But it's like, still, you're playing a game at some point. Like, and at that point, I think also maybe they were just like, hey, I have money. If they want and need the money, they can have it, and that's cool. But that's not fun for us as viewers, though.
No.
Because, like, we want everybody to at least consider cutting throats. They don't have to do it every time, but it's got to be something that they're willing to do, I think. And it's just like, it gets frustrating sometimes. And it felt very virtuous from some of the Bravo people, like Larsa in particular, where it was like, we don't look at it like that. We just look at it as going on TV and having fun, not hurting our friends' feelings. And it's like, oh,
That's the wrong show.
I know. It's like you signed up for the wrong thing. The Marcus and Larsa stuff fell flat, and I'll start with that because I want to finish my thought. But God, I was very disappointed in this reunion. Genuinely disappointed in this reunion. Not in the cast, though, and I want to make that so clear. Not in even production, not anything else. It's really, for me, an Andy Cohen thing. Andy Cohen
I love as a host, by the way.
I know. I did not like it. He felt very unprepared. He felt very lackluster. So those two things were like my big things. He didn't feel invested. And that was in a bunch of different ways. He felt like the tone was just kind of flat. It didn't feel like he was like excited to be there that day. The charisma was off. Like, it felt like the switch had been turned off. Like when they were going around the circle being like, hi, how are you? Like, they do it literally every tell-all or reunion that you see on reality TV. Sometimes it can be a little awkward because it's weird to introduce yourself. But there was like blocks of silence. And I'm like, are we good? Why is this happening? And then the questions felt like they lacked research. Like, one of them, they didn't need to ask Dan whether it was from a fan or not. They didn't need to ask Dan and Janelle, what was your relationship like on Big Brother? We already know, a bunch of us. Set that up for the people who don't know and give them more time to actually talk about the game. Give us some more fireworks, but the questions didn't even incite fireworks. I just was so disappointed in what could have been an insanely explosive reunion that could have literally probably had some of the most memeable moments. It fell flat, and I was so disappointed. Disappointed.
I mean, it lacked the drama that we did get is drama that I just don't feel is justified in Traitors. It was again, like the Andy Sari do-over 2.0, again, who felt betrayed. I just, God, the Phaedra and Dan, like the Phaedra being, I figured by now, just by now, she has had like time to process this from a gamer perspective, or have somebody in one of her many interviews that she's done explain to her like this, that was his way out. Like he's explained it. That's what he thought his way out was, like this is not a personal thing for her to still call him like a piece of shit. And I just, all of it, I'm like, okay, this isn't entertaining drama. This isn't,
No.
I want to see someone said something in a confessional about you, and you got to see it at home, and make them face the music about it. That's what I like reunion shows for.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's like, take it to that point. Like, here's unedited things that Dan said about Phaedra and Phaedra said about Dan, and then we'll
I mean,
play
all
it.
the shit talking they did in the turret. Let's talk about
It just,
that. Like when they're trying to pick who to murder, like they would
that
make
is,
comments and like John's
yes,
word limit and shit like that. Like, let's hash
yes,
that shit out because
yes.
that's fun. Because
Mm-hmm.
they didn't know about it in the show, but now they've been out of the show and they know about it now. So like
Yep.
let's talk that shit. But
It felt very PG, and I was like,
it did.
this show borders R at times. Only just
Yeah.
because, probably not R. It's just probably like very strong PG-13. I can't say it's probably R,
Speaking of
but
PG-13 R rated stuff, I will say this about the finale at Fire Pit.
oh my god.
I didn't know I needed CT to pick me up and throw me on a table of gold. But now that's like a whole, I need to figure out what trope that is. I don't know. But like now I need some fan fiction. I don't know.
She's
But
got
that's
a
a thing
king.
now. I saw it, I felt a certain way, and then I was surprised I felt a certain way. And
You
then,
weren't you weren't necessarily alone either. But I will
oh
tell
my
you,
God. When he picked her, I know that Trishelle and CT don't have any like he calls it brother, sister, whatever. And I'm like, that's not what that looks like to me. That's not what it
well,
looks like to me.
I'll tell you, I had to sit and think about Andy's comment because, like, I'm the one where I was just like, I knew that, and I'm not saying you didn't, but I was like, I knew it was super platonic. And he's like, "What about that romance part at the end?" I was like, "Rom com?" Oh, you called it? Yeah, it was like a little rom com at the end. I was like, "No, I felt like I get the part where he like picked it up, but like, first of all, where's the com? I didn't know where the com came in. Maybe when he did the back flop onto the gold.
Onto
How
the
did
goal.
he break his back?
That looked like it hurt. He could break my back, but he anyway. That I liked that part of the finale. Other than that, though, it's just all meh. Everything was, as my kids would say, mid.
Womp womp,
Womp womp.
which is apparently back in style. Couple other like little. I wouldn't say all of them are little. One of them is very important. Peppermint had a very important discussion about
Beautiful.
internal biases, which I thought was very valid. And I think there was a bit, and not I think, I know there was a big group of people on social media that are like, but she did XYZ to make them think that she was a traitor. She literally called herself a traitor. It's like, okay, but like if like somebody like Parvati screwed up and said, "Oh, I'm a traitor," do you really think everybody would have pounced on it like that? They could have, but the opportunity
It's
is
hard
so much
because
higher
It's hard
for
because I get where Peppermint's coming from. I don't think I get where Peppermint's coming from. I think that early in the game, they were looking for anyone to slip up. So
I
yeah,
agree.
I
I
could see
agree.
that getting turned on anyone with that kind of slip up. However, I will say I did not hear the slip up the way that the rest of the house did it.
Agreed. That's why when Max was one of the people who was like, "That is not what I heard.
It
I don't
wasn't
think
like a
that's it."
Freudian slip. It was literally her using a statement, and she didn't even say, like, they're re-quoting it saying, "I am a traitor." That was not what the
That was
phrase
not
was.
how it came out.
It's
No.
not how it came out at all. So even on this podcast that we have covered this for 2 seasons now, talking faithful and traitor, I always have to stop and, like, remember the phrases too. And I
Oh,
didn't
I'll slip
see
up all the time.
I didn't see that slip up the way everybody else saw it, right?
No.
I think where Peppermint's coming from is one that, two, Trishelle's comment about, like, well, if I'm dead, then it's Pepper. Like, that comment was completely unjustified. We should have
Yeah.
addressed that at the reunion, asking Trishelle, where did that come from?
Mhm.
I need to know, like, what made you make that joke in the first place? Because
Mhm.
it could have been an editing thing where Peppermint made, like read Trishelle for something, like made a sassy, like an insult joke to Trishelle, and that was Trishelle's. But there was, like, nothing leading up to that comment, which
Right.
made it strange, which made it come across a certain way, and which made it feel a certain
Mhm.
way. So I think Peppermint's feelings are completely valid, but
Oh,
I feel like
totally.
the primary message here was um, the lack of representation in the entertainment industry and across platforms like this, and how important it is when we do get representation on these shows, that it happens more often. Because if it is a competition show and that person goes out first, then you're missing a lot of other representation opportunities for people at home who, like Peppermint said, have never met a trans person before.
Mhm.
um, Peppermint being on this show was a very big deal, and I mean this in a very careful way. It shouldn't be that big of a deal, because it should be so commonplace that it's not that big of a deal. And that's the problem.
Right.
That's the systematic issue. It wasn't that
Right.
they voted Peppermint out early. It's that Peppermint was a very rare bird being a trans person on one of these shows. That's the issue.
Mhm. Absolutely, and it shouldn't be that way, obviously, as you've just
Yeah.
reiterated. It's I thought it was a really important conversation. I was frustrated with seeing some people downplay it by literally just being like, "But she did all of these things," and it's like, "Okay, I but it doesn't matter," again, because my
There's the
other
point to those people. I say, there's the point, and you completely missed it because we're over here. Like,
it is I'm just glad that they gave her that opportunity to speak about it like that. I wonder if they didn't ask Trishelle because it was a choice that they ran by Peppermint first, but if not, like, it's a conversation that I think is really important that needs to have been had, and it just felt like, I mean, it was good that they gave Peppermint that place, but I felt like there was more room to talk. I also was like, I'm just gonna make the assumption based off the editing, it looked like the only person that apologized was John? If
yep.
that's it, like, I don't care if they apologized off screen, whatever. If I was in that position and I had done that, I would have just still apologized right then and there and been like, "And just so you know, apologies." Um, so it's just one of those things where it's like, I that kinda took me back a little bit. I saw you were
I
talking and then you muted yourself by accident.
Well, yeah, my mic unplugged. So, but I don't think that an apology for banishing Peppermint was what was needed. I think, and I not ultimately at the end of the day, I don't think it matters what, why the reasons they thought to banish Peppermint, because they were going to pick anyone. I think the really important parts that they just really, really missed here is one, let's clarify, because it was a clearly edited conversation, what led up to the Trishelle comment. Because out of nowhere, it does seem like bias. It does seem like implicit biases. Um, and we talk on implicit biases a lot with these shows. And it did seem that way. I would like to know what that comment was leading
Mm,
up to that. That's really what it is. I don't think that every person that voted Peppermint's name has to apologize to Peppermint, because
no.
again, the earliest you could be in the show, you have nothing on anybody. You have nothing to go by. If anything, they maybe should have put John's name down because of Lars's supersonic hearing. Like, literally at that point, nobody had anything to run with.
Right.
So a
I
slip
think
up is
yeah.
all that they needed. That's all that could have happened at that point. So I think that what Peppermint said was very, very important. And I think that we needed more context from the people who wrote Peppermint's name down as to anything the show didn't show us, to make us see like where their reasoning really was.
Right. And I think maybe then back to my point, I'll revise that a little and just be like, if somebody's like listening to that and acutely aware that that may have at least to some degree played a role in their decision making, then that's when I would be like, I'm just surprised if that there wasn't more than just one person that had that realization to be like, oh, I could have done that. I'm really sorry and apologize. Um, it wasn't also necessarily just that it was of everybody in the group, it was John.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I did a lot of research on him going into this because he did Brexit. He was like a big YouTube star because of Brexit, and I was kind of trying to figure out like if there was anything else to him. He was on 60 Minutes a couple years ago, I want to say, right when he was leaving. But like this is very much his MO is like is wanting to kind of champion the marginalized.
Yeah.
Or at least support. Maybe champion might not be the right word. Let me revise that. So like show strong support. Like I know like he was part of pro LGBTQ legislation out there. And there was like there's a lot of heat that he took for certain things because he was in kind of this middle of the ground position party where you know, he was taking a lot of flack from conservatives for the way he would address certain social issues, including LGBTQ issues. So, I was glad I had that knowledge going into it because I think that gave me context as to why he was somebody who chose to say that. And I just don't want to I want to make it clear too. I don't think I'm not knocking anybody for not saying that. I just think it was interesting to see who recognized it in themselves and was willing to be like, "Hey,
Of
my
course.
bad."
Yeah. And I bring it back to, and we've had this discussion before, where with Big Brother, and how up until recently, out of 20 plus seasons, we had never had a black winner
Mm,
of Big Brother.
mhm.
And while there are systematic issues with black people going out very early in the game, you can look at like Jackson Mickey and having to pick the four that he picked, and he picked all people of color and
The old
the
person.
senior in the house. And so right off the bat, with nothing to go off of, there are a lot of those implicit biases that, yes, one prevented a black player from ever winning the game. But the bigger issue is that if you only cast one, maybe two token black people in your show, that is the problem. That is
With
the
simple
bigger, like,
odds.
not bigger, I don't want to say bigger issue. That is one of the largest causes of never having a black winner. Because there's a
Full
lack of
representation.
diversity, and now we have the diversity initiative, and we have more it's not nearly enough, because 50% white, 50% people of color is not
No,
diverse. That's
no.
not a collection. We've talked about this ad nauseum. But I'm saying that, like, I feel like I feel so much for Peppermint, and I
Mhm.
absolutely, to the people out there that are saying, well, they're saying now that they just deserve to stay on the show because they're trans. No, they deserve more representation. And this was a very rare opportunity given in the industry to have a trans person represented in these shows. And the bigger problem is not that Peppermint went out early. Bigger problem is that more people like Peppermint are not in these shows, period.
Absolutely. Um, and I think my last thought on, you know, the John thing too is like, I think it's just big to hear somebody acknowledge it, you know, and be like, okay, you just told me this. I am looking back at my actions and can at least tell you there's a chance that that really did happen, and I apologize. Um, maybe it's important that we recognize it in ourselves because no one is perfect. I mean, it's we all have to learn and grow and become better people, and in order to do that, we have to acknowledge these kinds of things in ourselves when we're presented. And again, as I mentioned earlier, there's a bunch of people who could have said something to her afterward, you know, so that I'm not going to write off this could just be that one person was just filmed saying it and that's
Mhm.
all, but that more happened. So I'm not saying that that didn't happen per se, but I do just think it's really big that when someone is like, "Hi, I want to talk to you about something that's impacting me. I'm not sure if you know that it is or why or how. Here it is." And then they're given the floor to react. It's just good for I feel like it's good for that to be acknowledged. So, not trying to put John on any like pedestal higher than anybody, but I just think that it was a really big thing to have that kind of happen. I enjoyed that. Um anything else on that before we hop onto some lighter couple little
No.
lighter notes? Okay.
The rest was really
Um,
fucking boring. I mean, it was all boring to me, but
so we finally found out who the romance rumors have been about. I mean, we kind of had some inklings on social media for the last like week or so, like
ugh,
leading up to it, but it was confirmed that it's Peter and Ekin-Su. Uh,
he's gross.
it doesn't surprise me even slightly. Not even
She's not
slightly.
into him. You could tell by the body language that like she might feed into the rumors for like
You
publicity
should see the
reasons leading
pictures
into
I
the
got.
huh?
Some of the screen grabs that I got for my TikTok that I'm
Her
doing
body
about it.
language is she's got the ick. They're like the rest of us for him.
Well, I bet you it was something that happened until she watched the show, and then when she saw certain things, she was like, "Ew, that's not who I thought."
Mm-mm.
Ew. Just a guess, just a guess. But that is tended to be how Peter's like that's not his MO, but that's kind of how like his time tends to be on reality television. We fell in love with him on Hannah Brown's season of The Bachelorette because he was just this very sweet, like we didn't know much about him because they don't get nearly as much airtime when they are dating the bachelorette or bachelor than they are when they are the person. So we just knew him as this sweet blonde guy who has some really cute parents and screwed her 3 times
I
in a
have
windmill.
such
And then we found
the
out he
ick
was
for him. It's
is.
unreal that even his like little segment they gave him where he gave the rose to Phaedra. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
So cringe.
It was so cringy. Like,
Oh my god, I was like as soon as he started teasing it, I was like, he's not gonna do that, right? And then he starts reaching, I'm just like, we don't have to do this
no.
anytime we have a bachelor
Like,
person.
and I don't care if this ever got quoted, retweet. I don't care. Because I would still interview him for this show
Oh,
because
totally.
just because like I know that like just how he talks to women bothers me. Um it bothers me. And sorry that our background, my forehead was looking like your forehead and then anyway. It's like um but then on top like oh my gosh, so much ick. He seems like the kind of guy that says you're welcome after sex. It's just
Oh. Oh, that's too funny.
yeah.
I really wish that his season was available for you to stream somewhere because I know you'd be like, "No, thank you. Yes, yes, you must. Yes, you must. Yes, you
Not
must.
gonna
Yes, you
happen, babe. I'm
must.
sorry. I love
You
you so
must.
much.
You
I
must."
have boundaries.
He doesn't. No, he does. He does some, but
Yeah.
yeah.
No, glad that was all icky and cringy and hard to watch. Everybody looked
Yeah.
gorgeous though. Phaedra's dress was gorgeous. Trichelle's dress is an enigma to me
Oh my
because on the
lord.
Instagram post, it looked like a hot pink dress with like teal spiky things. And
It's
I
like
was in
a
love with
dress.
it. And then she walked out, and I guess that was just like weird reflection in the photo because she walked out and it's red and silver, and I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, it could have been that. It could have been the reflection of Peppermint's dress. Now that I think about it.
Oh, and well, Peppermint made Trishelle's dress more beautiful. Without Peppermint, Trishelle's dress looked like the Game of Thrones chair.
That was great. Speaking of Peppermint too, we got confirmation that she helped fuse the bond. What words are coming out of my mouth? Let's retry that entire sentence. She she helped end the feud between Parvati and Sandra that they very much came into the game with, and they confirmed for us. Kudos. Absolutely love it. That was a nice moment. It's nice to see Parvati and Sandra on better terms because they're
I've,
love.
like I said, I did some research, and then we've covered them on Patreon episodes and stuff before. So I've seen a lot of clips. I've read through their gameplay and their story. I've watched a lot of footage. And while I have a deep admiration for their Survivor gameplay, watching them full in on an episode like this, I have an appreciation for both, but as reality show personalities, they fell flat for me.
Oof. Then you need to go watch Heroes versus Villains.
No, I get it. And I get that they delivered in Survivor. I get that. But because I've seen those clips and because I know that about them, I'm disappointed that their personality fell so flat in this game.
I would say that maybe more for Sandra, but like I think Parvati
shined
was
with
Parvati.
the goblet thing. That was like, yes, girl. Like, give somebody the poison chalice. I get it. Like that was, but I feel like that's the really only standout moment I can think of for her in the whole game.
She was just entertaining all around, though. I thought it was more for me like it was just that anytime she was like her feud with Peter, it just like it added fuel to the fire, and it's like she adds the drama without. I mean, I guess she is a little bit at the center of it, but like it's because she wants to play the game and she's center like she loves to just play a game and screw around. Like I've told you at our Survivor draft, Venus on this season reminds me so much of her, and like.
And I think I struggle because I have different compartments in my brain, right? I have Big Brother appreciation, I have Survivor appreciation, I have Traitors appreciation, House of Villains. They're all different. In Survivor and Big Brother, I am appreciating that sneaky, strategic kind of player. I feel like in Traitors, we got so much from the housewives and the, even up in the end with Sari and the Andy and then and Ari and all of that, like the just oh my gosh moments that overall, if I just had to wrap up like season two was very good, but I found season one more entertaining. And I feel like overall these personalities had such big potential when they announced the cast. I remember how amped and excited I was. That I was kind of disappointed in the lack of drama. I don't need fighting and drama in Big Brother and Survivor. Like, yeah, those moments can be great and awesome, but like I'm here for the strategy. House of Villains and Traitors, I feel like I want big personalities. I want loud, dramatic roundtables, and I feel like we got more of that in season one than we did season two.
I don't know. I think it's maybe just personally, I thought I got a lot of entertainment and drama out of this. I thought this one topped season one by a mile. I won't say necessarily the finale because I do think that like the way things played out with Ari and everything like was totally next level. Like that, I mean, that felt like that finale would have fit better for how this season went. Because yes, this finale was dramatic, but like it's not going to, I think, in Traitors history, even probably come close to being the most dramatic finish. It's just because it's season two and we're still getting used to some of the antics that can happen when it comes to this fire pit. 'Cause it can be so different and so many things can happen.
I mean, if I
just
look
didn't
at roundtables from season 1 versus roundtables from season 2, there were a few roundtable fights, but it felt like they were extinguished very quickly. Whereas season 1, you had like the Rachel Kate feud. You had the like it was just and it was so I mean,
I do want more
Janelle
Rachel Kate stuff. Yeah, that would
yeah,
be better.
Janelle gave that,
Yeah.
but she was gone so soon, like
I know. That is, we could definitely, I think if they're looking for more dynamics in a cast moving forward, they do need more of that. I
Mhm.
think that's also part of why they brought Kate back, but it's like, didn't really have the right cast to do that with right here,
I think
though.
Kate has a big part of my decision too, which I feel like Kate as a traitor was overall a flop for me.
Yeah, I was disappointed.
Yeah.
But not, I guess a little in her, but not because like she knew she could have done better. I think it's just like she got very overwhelmed and it just wasn't what I
Yeah.
don't think even she expected.
And we say what you want about them, but some of the non-reality people in season 1, you had, Christian. Let's talk about Christian gave
Oh
us
Lord.
so much to talk about.
I think for me, maybe part of why I downplay season 1 so much is because as much as I actually love them as people, like Quentin and Andy didn't give us a ton in terms of like dramatics throughout the season.
But
Um,
I disagree with we've talked about that before, but with Quentin, I found him wildly entertaining because he was so confidently wrong all the time that it was entertaining to hear him do these big speeches and these overly confident speeches and talk throughout like he's got one, he's figured it, and he was always wrong. And then at the reunion, getting called on that and him owning up to it, it all just like came full circle. I feel like Quentin's story was great in that way. Christian was a choice, but in the best way for entertainment, like I feel like and then I can't even remember her name, even though I'm watching season 1 right now. The one that cried all the time.
I have not
Non-reality.
watched season 1 in a bit, so
She got killed.
I remember Shelby, I remember Amanda she left before, Geraldine,
I can't remember her name right now. Somebody's gonna
uh,
crucify me in the comments, but
Angelina?
she cried all
Is
the
it
time. She was
Tommy's
very,
cousin?
very emotional. Huh?
Is it Tommy's cousin, Angelina? Or whatever her name was? Angelica? I can't remember which one it was.
Maybe. I don't
Blonde
man.
hairdresser.
She just cried all the time. She was very emotional all the time.
I think that's fair.
They all just like everyone had their silo, everyone had their like thing. And I feel like this year it was Team Bravo, team competitors. And I feel like that's where I was kind of missing a lot of
Well,
things.
I agree with that, and I think moving forward, they need to have things way more balanced. Like, they can't have so many housewives. I'm sorry, you cannot have
Yeah.
4 housewives on a season. It's never going to work, ever. And so, like, when I was doing and this honestly will kinda lead into some, like,
Yeah.
questions moving forward. So, now that we've kinda wrapped this up, I'm gonna just talk about some things moving forward into next season, and if you think of anything we forgot to talk about, toss it in there. But one of the questions I have is like, who do you want to see next season? And I made a TikTok that I'm sure a lot of you guys saw already that kind of went through some of my picks. But my goal was no more than 1 man and 1 woman per show. No more. Because you're not going to get a healthy balance otherwise, in my opinion. So I actually like when people are like, wait, where's your list? Where's your list? I'm like, I am actually like, having a hard time because I'm making sure that my list seems as thorough as possible. That's why I only had 2 people from the challenge and 2 people from Survivor, 2 people from Big Brother. Some shows only had 1, but a bunch of them only had 1. And it's like I just think that's how you're going to get a better balance than just having a bunch of people who have already gamed together continue to game together.
Pull up
I
my
think they did it
list.
right, though, by having 1 Bravo and 1 gamer before they decided to split themselves that way. I thought it was good that when they had just 2 traitors at the beginning, that they did have 1 person per side.
Mhm.
I think they anticipated that really well, and I think that helped at least keep things balanced to some degree for a little bit. Then when Dan went out, it was all hell breaks loose.
Okay, so are we doing our who we want to
Oh yeah,
see
go
on
for it.
season 3? Well, Tiffany Pollard.
Oh yeah, I think that's probably not going to happen because Tiffany is coming back to House of Villains, though. So,
Yeah,
but
but
I'll just say any season, put Tiffany
yeah,
on, please.
Tiffany Pollard. Lala Kent or James Kennedy from Vanderpump Rules. Austin from Survivor.
Yeah, not a bad one. I like that one.
I would want to see Austin, maybe Austin and D. Would be my 2 like Survivor picks. I don't think we'll get any. I mean, we might start getting some new age Survivor people, but that would be up there for me. Also, I know this is like a really hot take and people, but yeah, I just spent the last hour telling y'all what I want to see at a round table and what I love about the show. So I'm gonna say put Omarosa on the show.
I said that too. People hate that. They're like,
They
no,
hate it so much.
I'm
so
still
much.
getting comments about it. People are like, anybody but Omarosa. Don't put
I mean,
her
people
on."
are upset that Lars is going to be on House of Villains. They're like, oh my God, I hate Lars. I was like, that's why she's going on House of Villains. Like, you're not supposed to love these people.
I know. Oh my God. They're like, I can't stand this person. People can't stand Richard Hatch. I'm like, yes. Yeah, that's the point. You're not supposed to. The one that surprised me, I
And
know we're
my
talking about,
non-drama pick would be Taylor Hale.
that'd be a fun one too.
I feel like
I
she'd
can
be
go
good.
through my whole list if you want, because I have
Yeah.
it all. Okay, so Tiffany Pollard is actually literally number 1 on my list. So also what I wanted to do is throw in some of those wild cards. I have a couple athletes because they had an athlete on this season, but I made sure my athlete person was on a reality show before. This isn't the person, but I did decide to put in Steve-O on my list because I think Steve-O would be fucking blast to watch on this show. I put Carson Kressley. People didn't like that because they did not like how he performed on Big Brother. I will tell them that Big Brother and Traitors are wildly different.
Way different. I like that pick.
Omarosa's on there. Marcellus from Big Brother 3, Mr. I'm going to not play the veto on myself. Simultaneously, also would like to see him play with Danielle Reyes on that season. I feel like that would bring the drama. It would be so much fun. Nene Leakes from Real Housewives, Alyssa Edwards from from RuPaul's Drag Race. Ooh, sorry if I give you thumbs up accidentally with my on the camera. Just counting with my fingers. Chriselle Staus from Selling Sunset. Nick Viall. Have you ever heard of the Viall Files? The podcast. So he is a former bachelor. He has an incredibly popular podcast. That is where Tom Sandoval made some of his most egregious comments. Nick is known for knowing how to stir the pot and being maniacal. So like I need it. For Survivor, I'm thinking Tyson Apostle. I've been saying it since last season, and I want it now. Eliza Orleans, she's amazing. Tiffany.
This is long.
It's the whole cast. I can stop there though.
No, you're good. Keep going. That wasn't a dig. That wasn't a dig. It's just, I mean, I have a couple more people, but I was like, oh, I was not prepared.
I put a whole ass cast together. Wes Bergman from The Challenge. I put The Miz in there because you can add the WWE flair and bring in a different set of fans. And I tell you, I know some people who may find that wildly entertaining. I thought Deontay Wilder was kind of a good pick from kind of outside of the reality television realm, even though Miz isn't necessarily that. Angelina from Jersey Shore. Please and thank you. Literally, I'd take anybody from Jersey Shore, though. I think any of them would be fantastic.
One of the people left on my list that I didn't get to say was Snooki.
Oh, that's brilliant. She would have been the person that I picked if it wasn't Angelina, because Snooki would be so much fun. I'd kill for that. Kenya Moore from Real Housewives. The other 2 names, you'll know probably one of them. I don't think you'll know the other. Andre from 90 Day Fiancé. He is one of the biggest shit stirrers in the franchise. And if it wasn't Larissa who got on House of Villains, who is now on House of Villains, allegedly, I wanted him because he is like massive shit stirrer. And the last but not least person is Rex Ryan from the NFL. He was stupid entertaining on The Amazing Race when he was on there. And even if whether he's right or wrong, whenever I see him on ESPN, it is just captivating. You either are yelling at him because you're like, how could you be so thick? But you could also be like, yes, you have the bet. It's just, he gets you polarized.
Yeah.
And so I think having those kinds of players would be fun. So anyways, who else are you thinking?
Oh, I already closed my list.
Oh. Your opinions are valid too.
No, it's okay. I gave my list. I
was just being a jackass. Even if it's just anybody else that comes to the top of your head.
Yeah, I think it was Snooki. Oh, and my drag queens. Bob the drag queen.
Yes, absolutely.
And
Oh,
Monet
that'd be so
Exchange.
much fun. Sasha Fierce would be great too. I don't know.
And
There's a
you
lot.
know what? I mean, Challenge got a few people. Housewives got a few people. Why don't we have more than one RuPaul's Drag Race on there? It is the number one reality show.
I think I think that's really a fair way to look at it if you're going to have multiple people from other popular shows, especially considering how popular RuPaul's Drag Race is. Like it should
literally
be fair,
beat all
equal
of those other
representation.
shows in the Emmys for best reality competition show, but they get one representative. No.
Would be so fun. Okay. Back to this season very briefly. Do you have a favorite player? Was there somebody that just did it all for you and you just love?
Besides me needing Johnny Bananas to come back. So I feel so robbed. I feel like Janelle was probably my favorite, and not like trying to be Big Brother bias or anything, but she was entertaining at roundtables. She was really good at playing the game, and I felt like she would have been an incredible recruit for later on.
Yeah, I think my favorite was, on some days it was Parvati and on others it was Phaedra. And I think I just went back and forth on who was having the better edit as a traitor in the episode.
Phaedra was definitely my favorite until she was in the hot seat, and I felt that she let me down with how she defended herself, or didn't defend herself, actually.
Yeah. Well, she was playing incredible, and like a lot of her critiques of Dan, ultimately she just ended up adopting herself as the pressure came on. And it's understandable when the pressure's on. It's just I kind of feel it a little bit. She gave us so many memes. So many memes.
Definitely
They need to think about that for casting moving forward next season. And then the last question, this might get some people a little fired up over who we say, because this is probably going to be more arbitrary than anything, but like, who do you think was the best player all season long? Because
I mean,
I don't think people are going to like my answer.
It's difficult for me because it's hard to argue that someone's the best player that didn't make it to the end. So out of best player, like, it's going to be whoever made it to the end. In that regard, I would say CT. Trishelle had the best intuition, but I do not think she played her relationships well in the game. So I do feel like CT beat her out in that regard.
My was gonna be Trishelle with a second of CT. I think they both played, like, I think that it's why when you have people from the same show doing that kind of stuff, like, Phaedra would have been the runaway for me. No offense to her or anything. She would have been runaway had she not hit the wall the way she did. When she just like was just, and I understand she was exhausted, and I'm not, no shade to her at all. It's just.
And there's an argument to be made like that, okay, well, Phaedra played a great game until Dan threw her under the bus. If Dan had done that, she would have made it to the end. I can absolutely agree with that. I can see a path for Phaedra to win the whole game and no one to ever suspect her had Dan not thrown her name out. However, when her name did get thrown out, her lack of ability to defend herself at the round table does like deduct good player points for me.
I agree.
So I do think, while I do think that she was playing a very great social game that would leave her undetected, at some point her name was going to come under fire, and if that's the way she responds, then I can't really justifiably like sing her praises as a great Traitors player.
I agree. Sandra's actually very, very high on my list as well. I think she deserved a better edit based on what we ended up seeing at the end. Felt like she very I understand that she did play kind of a role where she sat in the background, but I feel like there was a lot of context we wound up missing from her that like when she was bringing it up at the round table, I'm like, that sounds like something that she probably was bringing up a couple days ago. Why did we not get this? I get that maybe there wasn't time in the storyline and they didn't want it, but it's like you gotta make sure that we get all the information we need sometimes.
Yeah.
And if it means just throwing something very small in an episode when Sandra says something that is gonna come down the line and play into this later, we need it. So
or don't show us 40 minutes of shooting stained glass in a competition.
yes.
Or jumping on floating rafts. Like it's kind of like the 90-minute Survivor episodes, which we're about to talk about Survivor in the next episode. But don't give me 90 minutes of Survivor if 30 minutes of that is Taylor Swift Metallica bands. Like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like if you I'm okay with editing if there's a lot to squeeze in. But when we have a bunch of filler shit, I shouldn't be missing parts of vital conversations.
Yeah, that's been my criticism of a lot of reality television programming lately. And it's like it feels like almost like their storyline that how they want it to come off, it takes precedent. And I understand that you have a story you need to tell, but it just feels like there is still certain information that in order to tell that story is very much missing. And I would love to know what the process is of how they edit these shows, because to me, it would make sense to edit. Oh, my ring light does this every time I'm on here for too long. But it's damn it, fucking ADHD. My ring light just went off and I lost my entire train of thought. Anyways, that's the end. But anything else before
No. I mean, I know I complain a lot, and it's kind of what I do lately. But it's still a fantastic show. And the reason I found so many faults with this season is because the standard was set so high in season 1 and how much I love the concept and the game and the show in general. So my expectations I went in very, very high. I went in high expectations for this finale. So while I seem like I did have a lot of complaints overall, like again, this is still a phenomenal show. I appreciate this show so much more, hot take, than Big Brother.
Easily.
You know, like I hold it as such a higher regard because we've seen the excellence they create with the show, and overall it was a great season. It was a really, really good season, and I'm very excited. Andy did confirm we will be getting a season 3, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I am too. And I guess my last thought is Alan coming for president. Nah, just Alan coming he absolutely, if he doesn't win, I at least want to see him nominated for some awards for best host. And y'all, if we can get that PCA nomination, we will come through for you, Alan.
Speaking of PCA nomination, we have a little bonus Patreon exclusive episode to record. I've been working with Lucas, and he has given us another top 10 countdown. And this episode will be probably a Patreon video exclusive because we're going to be ranking Alan's outfits for season 2. And I'm really excited about this. But throughout, I do plan, it's going to take us a little bit more time to prep and get up editing because we want to get some clips. But like top 10 Alan outfits / greatest moments for Traitors. So be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, that's going to be so much fun. But with that, that does wrap up this episode and this season of our coverage of Jesus Christ, none of those words made sense. I really tried to ad-lib. I just I gotta either
is.
stick
It is
with
what
the
it is.
script or never look at it. No, it wraps up this season's coverage of the Traitors, and it also ends this episode of Wicked Unscripted. There we go. But if you like what you hear, please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast. We're regularly posting on TikTok. Hopefully more soon, because TikTok's been brutal lately. Absolutely brutal with this algorithm. So we're trying. But still follow us there. It's Abigail Adams, Sarah Talks Big Brother. You can find us on Twitter, same exact way. Again, I refuse to call it X. And just make sure you keep on following us for latest updates on this show, Big Brother, Survivor, House of Villains, because we are starting to get some spoilers in. Oh, and by the way, guess who is rumored to be on the Challenge 40? Monsieur CT. So it's gonna be super fun. People are just frustrated that they didn't get Trishelle, and I'm like, they were like, well, they didn't know that she was gonna win. It's like they didn't need to at all. They didn't need that. So whatever. But anyways, if you would like to ask us a question, share your thoughts, or leave a tip, email the podcast at wickedunscriptedpod, P-O-D, at gmail.com for more. That is Wicked Unscripted Pod, P-O-D, at gmail.com for more. We're always looking for fresh and diverse voices to join the conversation. And with that, we will see you next time. Thanks for listening.
Bye.